deep dive, where we take these disparate piles of sources, marketing reports, neuroscience, even ancient philosophy, and we sort of mash them all together to find those golden nuggets of insight.
Right.
And today, we're diving deep into a really unexpected connection between high-stakes emotional marketing and the rise of these polarizing media empires.
It sounds like a huge jump, doesn't it, from the boardroom to the marketplace and then all the way back to ancient Greece. But the underlying mechanism is identical.
Okay.
So our mission today is really to show you how businesses and now individual creators build this profound level of trust and these fiercely loyal fan bases.
And not by listing features.
No, not at all. Critically, they do it by strategically targeting your core values, your identity, and your raw emotions.
And here's the real hook, I think, the paradox we're trying to solve. We'll look at these media figures who launched their careers on really controversial, boundary-pushing content.
The shock jock model.
Exactly, the shock jock. But then they pivot successfully.
Yeah.
They become this trusted go-to platform for serious mainstream icons. I mean, we're talking Jane Fonda, RuPaul.
Even the Vice President of the United States.
It's an incredible shift.
And that shift from provocation to this kind of intimate authority, that's the playbook. It's a calculated strategy. We'll cover the core marketing techniques, some surprising case studies, and trace it all back to the original provocateur Diogenes.
Okay, let's start at the foundation then. Emotional marketing. I think for a well-informed audience like ours, we know this isn't just about, making ads that make you feel happy.
Right, it's way past that.
This strategy just completely bypasses that feature checklist, and it goes straight for resonance, tapping into feelings, values, and I think most importantly, the consumer's sense of self, their identity.
And what's fascinating here and so critical is the absolute need for authenticity.
You can spot a fake a mile away.
Instantly. Consumers are so adept at spotting manipulation now. So for this to work, the message has to align perfectly with the brand's actual ethical values, their actions.
And when they pull that off?
The perceived value, the value that goes beyond just the cost of materials, it goes up, exponentially.
But I wonder, does that make the product itself secondary? I mean, if you focus so much on the emotional connection, isn't there a risk that people become loyal to the idea of the brand, not the quality of the shoe?
That is the tightrope walk, and that's why smart marketers always talk about the balancing act. Emotion is essential to grab attention, to forge that deep connection, yes, but it has to be tethered to practicality, to logic, so the consumer can actually justify the decision themselves.
So you need the emotional pull and the rational pull.
Exactly. You need the emotional fuel to start the engine, but the logical roadmap to, get where you're going.
That makes perfect sense. Our sources had a great example of this. If you run a really effective fear-based ad about climate change, pure emotional play.
Right. It can't just end with dread. The fear has to be resolved. You have to give people actionable steps. The ad needs to finish with a logical pathway. Buy a carbon offset, support this legislation, whatever it is. The logic justifies the emotional investment.
Okay, so let's dig into the toolkit then.
Yeah.
And the primary weapon has to be storytelling, right?
Oh, absolutely. Narratives are foundational.
Because they humanize a brand. They create these emotional anchors that let people relate on a personal level.
We are just wired for stories, and there's a strong neuroscience connection here.
I was hoping you'd say that.
Yeah, research confirms that when you engage with a story, it's not a passive thing. It actually activates sensory and emotional regions in your brain. It can even trigger oxytocin.
Wow. The bonding chemical.
The bonding chemical. So when a brand tells a good story, they aren't just selling something. They're literally building a chemical bond with you.
Which explains why the best ones always follow that classic structure, right? Conflict, struggle, and then resolution.
And they position the customer, or sometimes the brand, as the hero overcoming it all.
Yeah.
If authenticity is the key, storytelling is how you prove it.
So beyond narrative, what else is in the toolkit?
Well, you have sensory and visual triggers, things to reinforce those anchors. The color psychology, we all know blue suggests trust. That's why banks and tech companies love it.
And red is passion, urgency. Yellow is optimism. Green is balance, growth.
All the wellness and eco brand.
Yeah.
But it goes so much deeper than just sight.
You mean like a multi-sensory experience?
Exactly. The classic example is the sound of a Harley-Davidson engine.
Oh, that rumble.
The distinct low rumble. It's so recognizable and so integral to their whole identity liberation, the open carbon road belonging that the company actually tried to patent the sound itself.
They tried to patent a sound. Wow, that just shows how critical that specific trigger is. It's not noise. It's an auditory signal of their core values.
It's the brand speaking, even when it's just the engine. And speaking of belonging, that leads to the next tool, community.
This is huge. Fostering a sense of inclusion.
Massively. This is where you see brands that build a movement, not just a customer base.
Like Glossier or Peloton.
Perfect examples. They don't just sell makeup or bikes, they thrive by building these customer-driven, emotional communities. When you see other people who share your identity using a product, it creates this fierce loyalty.
Social proof.
The community becomes the emotional product. It validates your identity choices.
So let's get into the big examples, the iconic case studies. We have to start with aspiration. That means Nike's just do it.
Right. They never tried to prove their shoes were, 10% better than Adidas.
Whoa.
They tapped into these universal emotions, determination, self-improvement. They transcended sportswear and became a symbol of personal empowerment.
The athlete is the hero.
Yeah.
The shoe is just the tool.
Exactly. Then you have the power of inclusion. Dove's Real Beauty campaign.
A total game changer.
It was. They evoked feelings of self-acceptance by featuring diverse women and actively challenging those old beauty standards. It was an identity statement wrapped in a bar of soap, and it worked.
Okay, so what about blending the irrational?
For that, you have to look at tolerance shoes. They're a certified B Corp, which right away signals to the consumer that they're held to a higher standard.
That's the rational justification.
That's your logic checkbox. But the emotional core is their impact model. TOMS commits 1/3 of its profits to community good. They focus on mental health, anti-racism.
So you get a shoe, but you also align your personal identity with ethical responsibility.
And then you have the counterintuitive genius of Patagonia.
The don't buy this jacket ad. I love this one.
It's marketing dressed up as criticism. By highlighting the environmental impact of consumption, they established themselves as credible, authoritative. They basically said, we care more about the planet than a quick sale.
It's a brilliant move. It makes you trust their entire mission because they're encouraging restraint, something no purely logical brand would ever do.
It signals a profound long-term commitment.
Okay, so now let's take this playbook, authenticity, community, even provocation, and apply it to modern media, the blueprint for the modern mogul, Alex Cooper.
Yes, call her daddy. Cooper launched her show into this incredibly crowded podcast space using radical honesty. Shock, even.
It was framed as locker talk for girls.
Yeah.
Right, very salacious, very boundary-pushing content in the beginning.
That was the crucial first step, the provocation. It was the perfect noise breaker. In that competitive environment, being radically transparent about intimacy gave her immediate, massive visibility.
That shock factor created the initial bond with her audience, the daddy gang.
But the evolution is the strategic genius here. She didn't just stick with the raunchy content that leads to burnout.
Right.
She successfully transitioned the show into a platform for deep, intimate interviews about mental health, insecurities, huge life changes.
She said she chose to grow with her audience, that if creators don't evolve, they get stuck talking about things they've moved past.
So her authenticity shifted. It went from shocking honesty about sex to shocking honesty about vulnerability.
And behind all of this was some ruthless business sense.
Oh, absolutely. She avoided early brand deals, protected the show's identity fiercely, and her move from Spotify to SiriusXM for a reported, $125 million?
Yeah, it's a staggering number.
It highlights her focus on securing her own independence and control.
And this whole strategic path, pivoting from the provocative shock jock to this deep, serious interviewer,
Yeah.
it just directly echoes Howard Stern's career, doesn't it?
It's the exact same arc. Stern evolved his show from outrage and stunts to these profound, vulnerable conversations. He's even talked about how therapy changed him and expressed regret for how he treated guests in the past.
So what's the mechanism there?
It's the same emotional one. Once you've established trust through transparency, even if that transparency is initially aggressive or shocking, you earn the right to ask deeper questions. The audience trusts the process.
And our sources point to this really interesting generational conflict here. Cooper and Stern are now two of the biggest stars at SiriusXM.
Yet, supposedly, Stern harbors some real hostility toward her, to the point where executives have to make sure they never cross paths in the building.
Wow. A corporate tension.
It just highlights the challenge of managing two massive personalities who share a similar competitive blueprint. And that blueprint, that DNA, really originates with someone like Dave Portnoy, the Barstool founder.
Who famously feuded with Cooper during her early contract talks.
Right. It all comes back to using provocation to create financial leverage.
So whether you're selling empowerment or shoes or intermediate content, it seems you have to cut through the noise with this unfiltered, often provocative demonstration of your values. But where did this idea even start? Establishing authority through defiance.
For that, we have to go all the way back to the ultimate historical provocateur, Diogenes of Sinope.
The founder of Cynic philosophy, 4th century BCE.
The original anti-brand. His philosophy wasn't written down, it was demonstrated through his radical life. He made a virtue of poverty, rejected every single societal convention. His message was that true happiness comes from complete independence.
And to prove it, he lived in a large ceramic jar in the middle of the Athenian marketplace.
He did. He actively rejected what he saw as confused and unnecessary societal rituals. His actions were his marketing campaign, constant provocation.
And his nonconformity was his authority. He got status not by accumulating things, but by rejecting them all, which gave him this unique moral leverage.
Which is perfectly illustrated in his famous meeting with Alexander the Great.
Right. Alexander, the conqueror of the known world, comes to the marketplace just to meet this infamous philosopher.
He finds Diogenes basking in the sun and offers him any favor he could possibly want.
And Diogenes' response is just legendary. He looks up at the most powerful man in the world and says,
"Stand a little out of my sun."
I mean, incredible.
Alexander was stunned, but then profoundly impressed. He famously said, "If I were not Alexander, I would wish to be Diogenes." The king recognized the power of total autonomy.
But there's an even deeper, alternate interpretation of that story we should touch on.
Yes, the later version where Diogenes wasn't just asking him to move, he was criticizing the king by calling him the servant of his servant.
What was the logic there?
The argument was that Alexander was a slave to his own ambition. His reason was subject to his will to conquer. So the powerful king was actually subservient to his own internal drives.
Whereas Diogenes, who needed nothing,
Was truly free, and therefore held the genuine authority.
So if we put this all together, Diogenes, the minimalist who rejected society, and Alex Cooper, the mogul who built a $100 million empire on intense emotional connection. What does this synthesis tell us?
It tells us that whether you're an ancient philosopher seeking moral authority, a marketing exec launching a global campaign, or a media star trying to break through the algorithm, success requires an authentic and often provocative demonstration of your core values.
And that demonstration forges the emotional bond with your audience.
Exactly.
So the key takeaway for you, the learner, is that great influence isn't about telling people what to think. It's not about listing why your product is better. It's about making them feel something personal and authentic. It's about enabling them to align their own identity with your vision.
Which brings us to our final provocative thought. We've seen how modern media empires are built on the strategic use of emotional transparency and intense community loyalty, right? Fostering groups like the Daddy Gang. But if the entire goal of the original cynic, Diogenes, was to teach absolute independence from society, how does the intense, community-driven emotional loyalty of the modern media brand paradoxically fulfill and contradict his anti-establishment ethos? That's definitely something worth mulling over.